Do we write a negative or is it a plus? What happens when we multiply and divide? What if they're both negative numbers? What if one number is more negative than the other? When do the signs change? Why do they change? Oh, why is this so weird? To be honest, it's not that complicated.
You can do it.
It's just about understanding what happens to numbers when you add them, if there are negative numbers involved, and knowing the key things to remember when you multiply or divide negative numbers or a mix of negative and positive, what to do with brackets and so on. So negative numbers are numbers that have a minus sign, like -3, -1, -2, etc. So let's go into adding and subtracting negative numbers. So the answer will depend on whether there is more of the positive or more of the negative. So the rules are quite different to multiplying and dividing them. Okay, so if we have -6 and we add 2 to it, we basically get closer to the positive. That's the thought behind it. But the best thing to do is to find is to basically do 6 minus 2, which is 4, and look at the numbers. Which is bigger, -6 or +2? It's -6. So my answer would be -4. The -6 is a bigger number, isn't it? Than 2. Yeah, 6 is bigger than 2. So that's where our sign will come from. Okay, so that's one type of example. Now, if we have, that's one example. Another one is -2 minus 1. So we have -2 and then we go down 1 again. This is basically 2 plus 1, which is 3. Since they're both minuses, we just put a minus in front. That's it. Okay, so it's very straightforward to understand. And something like 4 minus 7. We don't just say, oh, it's the wrong way round. It should be 7 minus 4, which is 3. We can do 7 minus 4 because we're finding the difference. But it has to be -3 because the -7 is more than the 4. There's more of the minus. So the answer would be minus. The other thing to think about is the fact that 4 is too small to take away 7, and so we can think of it as in it's owing 3. It needed 3 more to take away, so we put the negative to let us know that it wasn't enough. We needed 3 more. Okay, but I actually think it's easier to think of it as 4, the positive, is a lot smaller than the 7. And so than the -7 rather, there's more of the -7. So when we find the difference, the answer should have the minus in front. Okay, all right, so let's do some examples then. Oops, let's change the color. So we've done some straightforward ones. Let's look at some others. So with these, take them step by step. 5 minus 2 is -3. And then we're going to do -3 minus 6, which would be
9.
-3 minus 6.
-9.
Okay. And why is it -9?
Because a negative minus a negative is a negative.
Good. So we literally see it like we're going further into the negatives by 6. So the number gets bigger in the negatives. Good. How about -5, -2, +3? So -5 minus 2, what would that be?
-7.
So -7, and then we're adding 3, which makes it what answer?
-4.
Good. Okay, so negative numbers are actually quite easy. The issue often is the working out. If there's no working out, then, the working out, doing it this way step by step, and also the practice. A lot of students don't practice enough of the sums for topics they need, and it can seem difficult, but really it's not. So how about this?
4 plus 1 is 5, and then 5 minus 8 is -3.
So 4 plus 1 is 5. 5 minus 8 is -3. Awesome. Okay. And so now let's look at another scenario. Let me just clear the page, where they start to introduce brackets, but we're still in the subtraction or addition. Okay. Now, whenever we see brackets, it means multiply. Okay. So basically, this area here, and let me just highlight this. This bracket is actually multiply, times. So it's basically this negative minus that negative. Okay. Sorry, that's not as clear as it could be. Let me draw around it again. So it's this negative sign, this minus sign, times this one. Okay, so what's the rule? A negative times a negative
is a positive.
Okay, so that then changes what we're doing significantly. And what it gives us then, if this becomes a positive, we now have 6 positive, so plus, and then 4, which is 10. Okay, does that make sense? So the brackets changes the sign, but we still do the operation. So it doesn't become 6 times 4. It just changes the sign for us so that we know what to do. How about -2 plus -3?
1. Yes, 1.
And are you sure?
Minus. Oh, yeah, -1.
How did you get -1?
Because -2.
So what's the first thing we need to do? We need to look at something.
The signs.
Okay, and between the signs, between these two signs, what do we have separating them?
A bracket. So
which means good. So what is positive times negative?
A negative.
Right. So what does it now become? What does the sum become? The bracket meant times, yeah? And it changes the sign. So plus times minus is minus, okay? So instead of having all of this, we replace it with the minus. So -2, -3, which equals -5.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So you almost have to rewrite this bit, replacing it with the sign that should be there. Does that make sense? So like this, -1 plus -5, okay, plus times minus becomes minus. So it's -1 minus 5, which equals -6.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Why don't you try one on your own?
-9.
Are you sure?
Yes.
And explain why it's -9.
Because you've got the bracket in between the positive and the negative, and then so the plus times the minus is going to be a minus. So -5 -4 is written out, and then it's -9.
Okay, good. Let's try something that's a bit more fun. So -4 minus, sorry, it's almost like an equal sign. -4 minus -1 equals -3. Is that true or false?
True.
Okay, it's true. Good. And can you explain?
Because you've got the bracket in between the two minus signs, so it turns into a positive, and then so it's -4 plus 1, and then it's going to go downwards, so the answer is going to be -3.
Because the -4 is bigger than the +1, so it takes that sign. Good.
Yeah.
All right, one more for fun. -4 plus -3 equals -7. True or false?
True.
Explain.
Because you've got the bracket in between the positive and the negative, so positive times negative times a negative is a negative, so it's -4 -3, which is -7.
Good. All right. Brilliant. Well done.